Morning. Today is Friday, July 7th. I just entered a short trade on the British pound Canadian dollar. And this was shortly after the non-farmers payroll came out and the Canadian data released came out at about the same time. I opted to go with a Canadian trade because the U.S. data was a little mixed. The employment numbers were fairly high. Lots of jobs created, more than expected, but the hourly average was lower than expected, and there was more focus by the market on the averagely hours. So I expected that would affect the American, any of the American U.S. dollar currencies, in the sense that the U.S. dollar would weaken. It did, but I wasn't as certain as I was with the Canadian trade. The Canadian data came out really good. We can look at it here. Canadian employment change was up approximately 43,000 compared to the expected 10,000 jobs created. So large change. Unemployment rate for Canada went down. So this was an overall positive trade for the Canadian dollar. I had to pair it, of course, with something. I chose to pair it with the British pound because previously, about 4 hours prior to the employment numbers release, we can look at it here, the UK manufacturing production numbers were released, and they were fairly weak. Negative 0.2 compared to the expected 0.5. So that meant that the British pound was in a downward trend temporarily. That was the temporary sentiment of the British pound. So I paired the Canadian dollar with the weaker British pound, stronger Canadian with the weaker British pound. And as you can see here, I made a few pips. Again, I didn't hold. You know, what I usually do is split up the trade. And I'm thinking of, in the future, letting half of it run. You can see here it went farther. I expected it to go farther, but I had incurred a few losses prior to this trade, so I was a little bit, I wanted to take profits as early as I could. Again, that's a typical habit of mine. But I think, again, one way I can overcome that is by, I'm already splitting the trade. So I think one way of allowing the trade to run is to allow half the trade to run farther while I'm out of the other half earlier. So that's the option. That's what I'm going to opt for in the future. Have a great day.